green castles in the air and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's clouds, illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Tears and fears and feeling proud to say I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds, I've looked at life that way. But now old friends are acting strange. They shake their heads, they say I've changed. Well, something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I've looked at lives from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions I recall. I really don't know life at all.
Thank you, Jay and Aditi. It's so beautiful. It's nice to have you here. And thank you, Jubilee community, for being here. It's so great to see all of you here back again for another lovely celebration. We are the Jubilee community, and we celebrate life and creativity and community and so much more. And to try to help create community in times of Zoom, say hi to each other in the chat. Tell us how you're doing today, anything that we should be celebrating. And it's really, really nice to actually see your faces. So please turn on your video if you're able to, and stick around at the end for the breakout rooms where we get to really have one-on-one connection. So when I saw the theme for today, I felt a little bit flummoxed. I'm like, disrupting peace? Why would I want to disrupt peace? I mean, I know probably many of you, and I know I have spent like tens of thousands of dollars on yoga retreats and hundreds of hours in Vipassana meditation retreats and read spiritual books and taken psychedelic journeys and all sorts of things to find some sort of inner peace. So when I find it, why would I want to disrupt it? But the thing is even when I find peace, I don't know about you, but for me, it often doesn't last that long. I get hooked. I get hooked by winning. I get hooked by losing. I get hooked by desire or aversion or fear or fantasy. And I know many of you know a lot about that last one. It seems like our peace gets disrupted at every turn. But like a good meditator, we know that this is a gift. It gets disrupted. And the question is, what do we do then? Do we follow the thread, or do we come back to that center? Do we come back to that place of peace? And all of us know about Gandhi, one of the biggest proponents of peace. And when he was looking at how we can help get the British government out of India, one of the things that he said was, let them leave, but let them leave as friends. Let them leave in peace. And so there's a way that we can disrupt and still stay in that place of peace. And I wonder if that's something that we can apply in all of the things that are going on in our worlds today. So that's what we're exploring this lovely Sunday, is disrupting peace. And with that, let's awake our soul, or since we're in the Via Negativa, we'll release and let go and turn it back to Aditi and Jay.
I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for love. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for love. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for love.
Good morning, Jubilee. And thank you, Jay and Aditi, for being here. It's such an honor to come and celebrate this beautiful fall morning and to find some kind of relief in some of disruption of the peace that's been going on for this past week and some of the uncertainty. But this election has shown us that, there has been a disruption in a sense of peace. And just like Jackie said, sometimes maybe we can get caught up in it, in our moment of peace, without striving forward, because peace is a process. It's not an event. It's not something that just happens and you have it there. You have to maintain, and you have to keep living in balance in that higher vibration in order to maintain that peace. But it's also good to question, that way maybe we're not know-it-alls and think that we're walking around with all this great wisdom. It's okay to question even the certainty that we have in our life, because it can change at any moment. And that's why in this moment I want to ask our ancestors to come in and to guide us in this way, because think about how it was in the beginning, whenever there was just peace and harmony on earth. Before there were buildings and industry and companies, there was just life and balance on the earth. All living things walking in harmony with one common vision, which was to envision a better, beautiful, loving, balanced future for our next generations. So let's honor the ancestors for that vision. And let's honor them for those brief moments of miracles that we find as peace and bliss in our lives. And thank them for being the foundation of the very visions and vibrations of prayer that we have for our children and next generations. Let's honor those that prayed that prayer. And thank you, ancestors, for coming. We honor you, all the ancestors from all the directions, all the way around this planet and universe. We ask you to know that we come to you with honor. We question some of the things that have happened. Sometimes we hold on to these things, and we ask you to help us to move past those disparities and traumas of the past, so that we might find peace, and that we might use peace as a tool to grow our faith and our trust in the future, and to teach that to our children and their children. And to give thanks always, ancestors, to you for creating that vibration for us, for speaking to the wind, for giving your light to the sun, for questioning the darkness. We thank you for all your laughter and all your tears. And we ask you to know that we honor you when we invite you to come and be with us and celebrate as we continue to question the future and the past, just so that we know where we are now. So come and be with us, enlighten us, and in a good way, we honor you. Aho. And now I'd like to turn it back over to Jay and Dee. Thank you.
This is the time when we feed this is the time when we feed the hungry. So there'll be links in the chat to be able to feed the many organizations Jubilee gives to. Sorry.
To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die. A time to plant, a time to reap. A time to hurt, a time to heal. A time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down. A time to dance, a time to mourn. A time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace. A time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose. A time to rent, a time to sow. A time for love, a time for hate. A time for peace, I swear it's not too late.
So beautiful. So last week we kicked off our 2021 pledge campaign, sustaining a community of courageous love. And so it's with such great pleasure that our next gift comes from the beloved and longtime jubilant Jerry Crouch.
Well, when Patrick several weeks ago called me up and said, would you be willing to do this? I said, in full disclosure, if anybody knows Jerry Crouch, I tell it like I see it. I said, full disclosure, let me say this. During all of this Via Negativa, and there was a lot of negativa going on, and certainly a power of disruption this year for us. And with the COVID and my salon shut down, along with many other businesses, where was the money coming from? There was the departure of Amy, who was fantastic behind the pulpit. And then there was all of that energy of refiguring all that out. Then about the same time, my bank account got messed with. So what did I do? But I had to get a new bank account number. And in doing that, that upset my contributions and my regular pledges through my bank account to Jubilee. All of this was happening about the same time. And let me say, as I sit here, I am a one-on-one kind of guy, and I'm usually sitting in the front row. I do not like Zoom. I don't like it here. I didn't like it at the Asheville Community Theater as part of their staff and all of that. It's just not my style. So here I am sitting here saying, this ain't working for me. This just isn't working for me. And there was a lot of negative energy, some surrounding the readjustment to a new life at Jubilee that did not have Howard. And then we got Amy, and then that, of course, now we've got the glorious Laura. But that at that point, I was in a funk. Folks, I was in a big funk. And what happened? What is the power of disruption? What is the disruption of the peace? My mother, who was 95 years old, had been in failing health over the past couple of months. In fact, started going downhill during COVID, not anything to do with COVID. About this time last week, my mother, they let us know she was going to pass, and indeed did pass last Sunday, November 1st, a little bit after 2 o'clock. Now, gay boys and their mamas, we are close. We are real close. So this is where the power of disruption, the disruption of peace in my life, because Mama and I had been anchors for years. Now then, this sets this up. Here is where the story gets real. Last Friday, the minister, Pastor Michael, at the church I grew up in, which was Methodist, Howard, you know that, love it, Platte Springs Methodist Church in West Columbia, South Carolina, where I grew up. I was going to do the eulogy, and my brother did his eulogy. But before that, Pastor Michael, who came 5 years ago, told this story that I had never heard. But it is typically Ova Marie Crouch, which is my mother's name. He was invited to come into the Sunday school class, and he had come in early. He did not know people. This was 5 years ago, and he had sat down. He was invited in. He said someone came up and tapped him on the shoulder and said, "You're in my seat." It was my mother. When Miss Ova told him to move, he moved. So my story is about, you're in my seat. We all have a seat at Jubilee. My mother had been a lifelong charter member of Platte Springs Methodist Church since my birth in 1952. Hold your applause. I know you don't think I'm that old, but yeah, hell I am. So my father and mother had always, they used to fill out the little envelopes before that was done. And that went in. Before anything else, both my parents were working class. They made sure that they tithed every Sunday to their church. It was a commitment. It was something that we were learned to do with our allowance, my brother and I. It's what you did at Platte Springs Methodist Church. It was a part of our lives, every part of our lives. Now then, after I heard that story, suddenly it made sense. Everything was meant to be for me to be here this Sunday after this week of election disruption, good, bad, or indifferent, wherever we are. I am wearing blue, by the way. All of this took me to my mother and the little pastor's speech of "You're in my seat." So what we have here at Jubilee is this. We have the opportunity, with what I understand, at least 120 screens every Sunday at least, led by Laura or led by Yona or led by Jackie or led by Jay and all the rest of the wonderful people that we have. So whether I'm sitting in the front row seat, which I will come back to, and it will be my seat at one point when we're there, we are now matching our income to our expenses because it's a whole new world we're dealing with now. Everyone has had to make adjustments. Finally, my partner Rick and I have got all our unemployment back, and the world looks fine again, and we're back jacking hair and beating back faces in our salons. We're feeding the hungry, I understand, with over $9,000. It's what Jubilee does. Everybody has a seat at Jubilee. We're also, through racial equity, which is something we've always honored at Jubilee, but now there's a renewed interest of that. We are doing all of those things along with the wonderful Patrick, my buddy, and having a bookkeeper. So we're keeping everybody honest, and we are honest at Jubilee. We've always been that way. Because if we didn't, Howard would tell you about it and everybody else. So suddenly here, now I have a chance to renew my interest in Jubilee, my interest in my seat. I was in one time involved in starting back, as Howard wanted to do, our drama program. I stepped back from that, not feeling the focus of that. I have now resigned from the Asheville Community Theater, which has nothing to do with anything other than there are now opportunities for me in the community otherwise. So I am here today to tell you, not only am I renewing my investment in Jubilee, I'm renewing my interest in Jubilee financially and as much as I can in the Jubilee community, along with other things that anybody that's on Facebook knows. I love my animals, Humane Society, LGBTQ youth, all of the other things. But Jubilee is going to be foremost in a renewed interest. And I would say, go ahead, just like I'm doing, just like all of the Jubilee family is doing, just like I felt at Platte Springs on Friday with my mother's memorial, that we all have a place. There is a seat for everybody at Jubilee, but there is an investment in that seat because that's the world we live in. And we're going to lock it in. And whether we're sitting here in Zoom, much as I hate it, but I'll be here, or once we're back in one-on-one and I can sit on the front row and see Laura, and I can see Jackie, and I can hug Yona, my brother Yona, and Jay, and everybody else that makes Jubilee an experience that is like a bigger ACT experience of theater, of heart, of performance art, but more importantly, a vulnerable heart that is open. Thank you for your time, all Jubilants. Thank you for everything that you have given to me as we sit there every Sunday in church or sitting here. And say a little prayer for my mother, as her belief is she's gone up to heaven with my father and all the rest of the people. But remember, she's going to tap you on your shoulder and say, you're in my damn seat. I love you all.
God bless you, Jerry. God bless Ova Crouch. We'll make sure that she has a seat right next to you here at Jubilee. I know a little something about gay boys and their mothers. My mother tries to fiddle with her Kindle every Sunday so she can log into this. And I'm just going to take 1 second as a Delaware boy with some bragging rights. My mom taught at Wilmington Friends School alongside Valerie Biden Owens for some odd 20 years. And as a Delaware boy, today feels a little special. I invite y'all to breathe deeply. So the theme today is disrupting peace. Isn't it interesting that disrupting the peace is also a misdemeanor? You know, sometimes we have to muddy the waters a little bit to appreciate how clear the water can be, how essential and life-giving and nutritive it is. We've been living in times of muddied waters, unprecedented muddied waters, very disrupted peace. My prayer, indeed, I think the prayer of the whole world, is that when the dust and the silt and the mud has settled, is that we will savor the necessity, the
critical importance for every being, every creature, from an amoeba to an elephant, of peace on this world, that life-giving nature of a moment to breathe and drink deeply of peace. I invite you to pray as you wish. Our friends in the chat will pray with you. Warren is lighting candles at the wall. From a Russian folk song. Spirit of peace, to your cause we give our strength, that love may reign and war may cease. Mir, mir, umir. Breathe deeply. Oh yeah. Aditi and Jay.
It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us by and by. It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us by and by and by.
Oh, good morning, Jubilee. You know, I think it's really interesting that the singers are going today after talking about us being wise, because our song today is the Melissa Etheridge song, I Need to Wake Up. And the wind was speaking to us last Sunday as we met at the amphitheater at Montford Recreation Complex. And thanks again to John Russell and Deanna Brain for allowing us to use the amphitheater space that the Montford Park players usually perform in. And also thanks to our accompanist, Tom Stewart, who is still volunteering his time to record piano tracks for us. So here we are with the wind speaking to us. And here we go.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, singers. That was beautiful. I think you woke us up. And what a beautiful day we have ahead of us. I invite you to hear these ancient words. For everything, there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones, and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek, and a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to throw away, a time to tear, and a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time for war, and a time for peace. From the Jesus story, do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and one's foes will be members of one's own household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. In modern words from Naomi Wolf, democracy is disruptive. There is no right in a democratic civil society to be free of disruption. This is ancient wisdom and holy word. Thanks be to all that is wise and holy. All creation is wisdom and holy word. All creation sings of wisdom and God. Hallelujah. All right.
Good morning, Jubilee. How you doing today? Are you okay? I will say that trying to know what to say this Sunday, this week, has been something else. Let me tell you, normally I like to have a pretty good idea by Thursday of what I'm going to say on Sunday. And the world just felt like that, that Ecclesiastes thing was happening all at once. It was like all of those things at once this week. And I will just go ahead and say, I am having technical difficulties this morning. So if my video goes out, it's because I'm glitchy and Jackie's trying to keep the sound going. So Jerry, I am right there with you with Zoom this morning. When it's working, I'm good. When it's not working, it's not working. So, but here we are. And how you feeling? Are you okay? Are you at peace? Are you at peace? So we sang and heard this morning that for everything there's a time to be born and a time to die. We saw that this week. And Jerry, I'm so sorry about your mother. Yesterday, I clicked onto the internet just in time to get two messages, one about the election and one that one of my mother's best friends had just died of COVID at the same assisted living facility where my mother is. A time to sow and a time to reap. Of course, we know this. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. That's the story of 2020, right? Time to refrain from embracing. But then we get to those last lines, a time for love and a time for hate, a time for war and a time for peace. Is there ever a time for hate? Is the time ever right to head into battle? Or is this just an example of ancient wisdom getting it wrong? And what about those words of Jesus? Man, that's pretty tough. Sounds like a lot of people's Thanksgivings this year, setting family against family. And why did he say, I didn't come to bring peace, but a sword? Well, for 6 nights this week, many of us gathered online for music and meditation. And in the midst of the anxiety and the uncertainty, we sought to create a little pocket of love. We grounded ourselves. We called in peace. We breathed out peace. And I don't know about the rest of you who attended, but those 30-minute intervals every night this week really helped me create more peace in my soul. And then yesterday, I felt like I could breathe a little more deeply still and dance. But still, I woke up this morning to a nation divided. A nation where over this long, tense week, so many things happened, and violence was threatened against the public servants who were just working long days to methodically count the votes. So I've been a poll worker in several elections, and I can tell you it's a long and tedious and usually pretty thankless job. You go through multiple trainings, you gather the night before elections to make sure everything is lined up and all the machines are working properly, and you sign off that the ballots are locked and ready to go. You wake up early, you get to the polls long before they open at 6:30 in the morning, you turn on everything, confirm it's just the way you left it the night before. And once they arrive, these poll workers cannot leave the room all day. They're not allowed to leave that room until about an hour after the polls have closed, and they've carefully shut down all the machines and tallied all the votes and signed off on everything. And if they're provisional ballots, there's this long, clear process for how they're created, how they're recorded. And everything in that room happens as a team that is required by law to be made up of both Republicans and Democrats. Nothing is signed off on without both parties attesting to it. Now, in many ways, it's as dull a job as you can imagine, but I always loved doing it because I felt like I'm in the middle of democracy. I liked getting to know my neighbors from both parties as we worked this long day together, just trying to make a fair election happen. So this is the first presidential election I've gone through with my honey. And we had just met before the last one, but we hadn't started dating yet. And leading up to this week, I was kind of trying to explain to him how important this week would be to me. But until he saw me this week, and especially on Tuesday, I don't think he really got it. And finally, he said to me, "This is kind of like a religion for you, isn't it?" I was like, "Yeah, it is. This is the sacrament of voting." So it hurts my heart to see the confidence eroded in this simple act of neighbors just gathering at the library or the school or the local church to use their voice, working together, different parties, one nation. So this morning, I am not at peace about the intentional lies being told about this process and the people who make it happen. And that feels appropriate. I don't want to be at peace about lies. And in fact, there are a number of things that I'm not at peace about. I'm not at peace about children being separated from their parents at the border. I am not at peace about 500,000 people without a house on any given night in America. I am not at peace about police officers acting as jury, judge, and executioner in split-second decisions and not being held accountable. I am not at peace that 1 in 4 children in Western North Carolina does not know where their next meal is coming from. I'm not at peace that 10% of the US population is without health insurance. I am not at peace that the poverty rate at Standing Rock Reservation is 43.2%, and the poverty rate among all Indigenous peoples in this stolen land is almost 30%. I am not at peace that my tax dollars support a military budget of over $730 billion, more than the next 10 countries' military budgets combined. That includes China, that includes Russia. I am not at peace that the US emits more than 15.5 metric tons of carbon per person annually. And that's the most per capita carbon on the planet by far.
I'm not at peace that 1 in 3 people around the world do not have access to healthy sanitation systems. I'm not at peace that more than 200 million women alive today have been subjected to female genital mutilation. I'm not at peace about quite a bit. And in fact, I could even say I hate those situations. But there's a time for peace and a time to fight, a time for love and a time for hate. You know, in each of these situations that I hate, these places where I'm not at peace, nor do I want to be, there are people who bear responsibility. And sometimes we know who those people are, and sometimes we don't. And often, many of us share in the responsibility of holding up those systems. Now, it's easy to transfer the hate we feel for the situation to hatred toward the people who create or most obviously uphold them. The path of love is the harder path. Valerie Kaur is a Sikh American activist, filmmaker, lawyer, and author. And in her book, See No Stranger, she tells her own story of being turned into an activist by the hate crimes against the Sikh community after 9/11. And she outlines her manifesto of revolutionary love. And she uses the imagery of childbirth, because she had just gone through childbirth when she was writing this. And she says, love is a form of sweet labor, fierce, bloody, imperfect, and life-giving. This labor engages all of our emotions. Joy is the gift of love. Grief is the price of love. Anger protects that which is loved. And when we think we have reached our limit, wonder is the act that returns us to love. Revolutionary love is the choice to enter into wonder and labor for others, for our opponents, and for ourselves in order to transform the world around us. Wonder, she says, is where love begins, but the failure to wonder is the beginning of violence. Entire institutions built to preserve the interest of one group over another depend on this failure of imagination. Breathe that in. Revolutionary love is the choice to enter into wonder, and institutions depend on our failure of imagination. Now, I got to confess that there have been plenty of moments over these past few years when I have suffered from that failure of imagination. Even this morning, I find it hard to imagine how our nation can heal. Yet I know these words from Joanna Macy to be true. A powerful mental shift takes place when we stop telling ourselves why something can't happen. It reminds me of the words of Jesus to his friends just before he died, when he said that they would do all the works I've been doing, and they will do even greater things than these. Quaker futurist Elise Boulding said, we must allow ourselves not only to wish for, but to intend the good. And in her workshops, Boulding used to invite participants to imagine the world they wanted 30 years from now. And she insisted they be very specific. You couldn't just say, oh, nobody's hungry. You had to envision specifically, how do people get fed? This echoes the words of Stephen Covey when he wrote years ago, begin with the end in mind. What is it we want to happen in our community, our nation, our world? What is it we want to happen right here in Jubilee when we get those front seats back, or the back seats, if that's where you prefer? What specifically do we want to see 30 years from now? What would happen if we stopped telling ourselves why our vision can't happen? What if we took Jesus at his word and believed that he came along not just to do things for us, but to show us what we are capable of doing? What are communities of faith, if not places where we come together to reimagine the world, places where we draw on ancient wisdom and shared vision, places where we can grieve together and rejoice together, places where we can get curious and then get to work. So why then did Jesus insist that he came not to bring peace, but a sword? It seems like such a strange saying for the one that we call the Prince of Peace. Could it be that the sword Christ brings is one that cuts through our illusions? A sword of truth that lacerates lies? A sword of wakefulness? Thank you for that song, singers. A sword of wakefulness that slices through our sleep. These images may sound violent, but maybe the real violence is allowing ourselves to live as those only half alive. If the election of 2016 was a wake-up call, then the election of 2020 is a reminder that we can't go back to sleep. Our work has only begun. As the prophet Jeremiah warned, we can't cry peace, peace, where there is no peace. Maybe the peace that is disrupted is the peace that keeps us sleepwalking through our days, failing to imagine a better world. I think it can be frightening to think that the future actually lies in our capacity to envision and practice love. But A Course in Miracle reminds us that the presence of fear is a sure sign that we're trusting in our own strength. Can we dare to believe that this universe, this magnificent planet, this beautiful biodiversity is powered by a creativity to which we have access? Can we dare to imagine that source rising up in us whenever we choose to ground ourselves in it? Can we trust that the sword of wakefulness that cuts through the false peace that would keep us asleep to our power is an instrument of love? And if we allow ourselves to be cut open, punctured by the pain and perfection of this planet, then the God of creation will have room to enter those puncture wounds and enter our imagination. And when we can imagine God's future, then we can begin to build it, brick by brick, together. May it be so.
Thank you, Laura, for such a powerful message. So if we were in the space, we would now pass around the bowls. So in the beginning, we give money to feed the hungry. and many other organizations. And this is where we feed Jubilee. And as we said, we started our pledge campaign. And so Patrick is going to tell us a little bit more. Patrick, are you able to come on?
I am. Good morning, everyone. So you heard Jerry Crouch a little earlier talking to you about why he's making a pledge to Jubilee this year. And thank you, Jerry, so much for that. And I know that your mother is very proud of you today for being such a good man. So I hope you all received a letter in the last couple of days, or at least an email letter from us telling you about this year's Pledge Drive campaign. If you haven't read it yet, please go back and do so. You know, pledges are how we determine our budget for at Jubilee. It represents the bulk of our income. So it's very important that we know what level of commitment people have so we can make appropriate plans for 2021. So please be sure to make a commitment. The pledge appeal just went out a couple of days ago, and I'm very pleased to say that I have received several responses already. So thank you for those of you who are early adopters, and hope those of you will join the team soon. And please read the letter that Bruce Mulkey, our board chair, wrote in that message. I think it's very powerful. And one thing he says in that letter is that we have had disruption in spades in 2020, but Jubilee brings unique assets to this urgent moment in time. It's important that we make sure that those urgent assets remain available to us in 2021. So I encourage you to disrupt all the disruption by making a pledge to Jubilee for 2021 by going to our cool new website, jubileecommunity.org. Go to the yellow donate button to make a pledge. And while you're there, check out the cool new website that our communications team has been working on for the last couple of months and has just completed. And also be sure to go to the community directory button and update your information as we're trying to rebuild the community directory as well. So go to jubileecommunity.org, make a pledge, update your community directory information. And thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that is a beautiful site. It's such a beautiful site, and it's really easy to update the information. So a couple other things I wanted to tell you about. You probably have noticed there's some holiday decorations going up. So we're thinking about the holidays too, and how we're going to do many of the things that we are known for. So two things that we often do, or we always do, is we raise money for a heating fund to help people keep people warm. We typically do that through a talent project. We're re-envisioning it this year. We're probably going to do a live auction. There's a link if you are interested in donating a craft or art or a service or an Airbnb stay or something like that. Please fill out that form so we can start gathering things that we can then put up for auction and raise money to keep people warm this winter. We also are going to be doing the Foster Child Project, where we buy gifts for foster kids. We don't have a link for that yet, but that will be up later this week. Hopefully, we just need to get the list. So we're going to keep doing what we've been doing for many, many years. There's also a really lovely event coming up with Andrew Harvey, who is an internationally renowned religious scholar, writer, teacher, and author. It's a 2-day online event with poetry and workshop on what's it called? Radical action, loving radical social action. Jubilants get a discount. So you go to the link that's in the list. It's Friday the 13th and the 14th of this month. And if you put in the code Jubilee10, you get a discount. Also, we have the Awe and Climate Change series coming up. It's this beauty and grandeur of animal and landscapes in nature that can be so inspiring for us. And yet we have this destructive force happening with climate chaos. And Dr. Roger Helm is exploring both of these realities through really amazing slideshows and conversations. So join the Earth team and Roger for Mondays starting November 23rd from 7 to 8 p.m. And you can register below. There is a donation asked, but no one turned away for lack of funds. And we also are working to feed some hungry people, the homeless folks who are at the Red Roof Inn through this season of COVID. We are looking to help cater meals for them. So you can donate to that also. The link is on the side. So there's just a few ways to get involved with Jubilee in Action this week. Thank you all so much.
We are here why we are here. We are here. We are here for all of us. We are here for all of us. That's why we are here. Why we are here. We are here. We are here for all of us. We are here for all of us. That's why we are here. Why we are here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Aditi and Jay. It's been such a pleasure having you with us today. We'll look forward to hearing more from you in the coming weeks. Oh, we are here. We are here for all of us, for all of us. And that's going to be the challenge in the days and the weeks and the years to come. How are we here for all of us? So often in a benediction, I say, go in peace. And today we're talking about disrupting peace. So how do we hold that paradox? That there are some things that need to be disrupted, and the way that we can face those things that cause a disruption to our peace is by finding an even deeper peace. A deeper peace that comes from the God who is the one connecting all of us to each other. A peace in the oneness that is the greater truth. So go in that peace. Oh, yeah.
And as we sing our last closing song, The Cacophony of Chaos, I will allow you to unmute yourself and sing along.
I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Chaos.
Oh.
Sorry, we were muted.
Do it again. We'll try with take two. That was great.
You're being peacefully disrupted.
Yes.
That was great.
To me, peace that lets us be. Peace from me to you. Peace keeps heaven.
And it moves on to near the river
Gives from me
to me. Gifts to bless our dreams. Gifts from me to you. Gifts moving through it forever. And it flows on through with a river of love. Let it wash through you with a river of love. And it flows on river of love.
So stick around when you go to the breakout rooms, and everyone have a fabulous week.